Today I have a weird issue with my mower, and I have my leads on my battery, and hopefully you can see that. It's 10.99. I had this thing running this morning, but one thing I noticed, the blades would engage and then the mower would die, and I thought it was the switch, so I replaced the PTO switch and it still did the same thing. So I got to looking, checking a few things, make sure the wiring, everything was looking good, and I discovered a little weird issue with the battery voltage. So as you can see, the battery is about a year or two old. It's not that old, but as you can see, voltage is 10.9, and I have it on DC scale right here. Hard to see, the sun's out. So that's your DC voltage. This is your AC voltage. So I have my meter on DC voltage, and as you can see, I'm getting 10.98. And while I was checking yesterday, the voltage was really weird. So I took the cover off the engine. Sorry it's dirty, but this is the voltage regulator. And on the voltage regulator, there's three wires, the way this one is. Now, some of them are different. This is a Kohler SV830 engine. So there's three wires on this thing, and they're like that. So you have AC on this side, AC on this side, and then you have your B plus on the middle, in the middle on this pin. And then, of course, it's grounded to the chassis of the engine on this metal plate. So it's actually like four connections. Your negative, your positive for your B plus, and then your two ACs. Coming from the stator that's inside underneath the flywheel, it generates voltage, and it generates AC voltage, and then this converts it to, around 14 volts, 13.9, 14 volts. And that's like a regular car alternator. So when you spin it, generates AC voltage, it gets regulated, and then the voltage goes to your battery. So let me get this started. It'll be kind of loud, and we'll check it out, okay? Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but I put the cover back on, so that way the airflow, so the engine doesn't overheat while I'm recording. So got my negative on there, and as you can see, that's about a normal voltage, about 14 volts. So the battery is charging right now. So when I rev it up a little bit, you'll see the voltage change. That's about half throttle. Look at my voltage. My voltage is 18 volts. Slide open. So as you can see, the voltage idle is 14. That's a little high. It should be about 14 volts, or even 14 volts, not 14 and a half. But as you notice that when I accelerate it, let's see if I can do this one hand. Too much voltage, and that's about half throttle. Okay, so as you can see, the voltage was 14 volts at idle, and then it jumped up to 20 some volts. And see, right now the battery is at 12.8 and it's dropping because it's overvolting the battery, and of course the battery is not staying charged. I have to jump it off every time because the battery is cooking, and it's about a year old, so I'm going to see if I can get it changed. But that's a good explanation of how to check your voltage regulator on your lawnmower without having to take anything apart. The only reason I took the cover off, was just to show you on the Kohler SV830, and this is kind of warm too. The Kohler's is, you have these two screws you have to get from the bottom. Kind of hard to get to, but like I said, there's a three wire plug on this regulator, and then it grounds to the chassis, the motor, the engine. So I've ordered another new one. It won't be here for a couple of days, and I will update when I get that in, and we'll check voltages again, because the battery is overvolting when you're running it wide open, for mowing, because this has got a PTO on it, so you have to PTO clutch, so you have to run it pretty much wide open. Mowing and stuff, it runs, but here lately it'll just die on me because I think the voltage is too much, and I haven't popped any fuses or anything like that. I've checked everything else. It's just the battery is overvolting. The best thing to do would be to check it before you start it. Leave the key off, check your battery voltage. It should be around 12 volts, 12.2, 12.4, somewhere around there. And then see how it starts. If it starts okay, should be fine. But then check your meter, check your voltage on your meter at idle. And as we had, it was about 14 volts, which is about right. And then half throttle, check your voltage again. And then at full throttle, check your voltage again. And you should stay right around that 14.2, 14.3, depending on what voltage regulator you have. Because the past couple of times I've tried to run this mower, it kept really hard to start, like the engine would turn really slow. So I checked the battery a couple of days ago before I was mowing, and it was right like 11.9, and it turned it over really slow, but it started. And now the battery sits about 11 volts, which is what I checked first, because I ran it earlier, but it's been sitting for a couple of hours since. So easiest way to check, get you a meter. It doesn't have to be digital. Make sure it's got DC voltage. Put your ground on a ground point, and then check your voltage on your battery. Kind of a glare. Check your voltage on your battery. So we're at 12.5. So the battery should stay, around 12 volts. If your voltage is raising when you're accelerating, go about half throttle, a little over idle maybe. Check your voltage. About half throttle, check your voltage. Full throttle, check your voltage. If your voltage is like mine, where it was in the 20s, it'll cook this battery, and that's what happened to this battery. So it doesn't stay charged. So if I cut this thing off, I have to put my jump pack back on it, start it up, continue mowing. And once I figured that the voltage regulator is going bad on it, then I realized that I've got to get a new one. So like I said, I've checked everything. The other day when I was mowing, it was fine, but I was mowing and it just cut off on me. On your battery, because this comes directly off your starter solenoid, and there's the wire that comes from this goes to the starter solenoid on the battery side, and that's what charges the battery. So when I took the positive off the battery and had it running the other day, just to see if the mower would run, but the voltage regulator wasn't putting out enough amperage to keep the, voltage and everything on the engine running. And then when I turned the blades on, it died immediately. So this is like a buffer, but this is all basically for starting. But it's also a buffer for your voltage and your amperage to run the clutch, spin the engine, keep voltage on the engine running. If your starter needs, well, don't worry about the starter, but it has enough amperage to keep the engine running, because you got to have voltage into your voltage regulator that regulates the coils and everything else in the engine. I hope I explained that right. I may be rambling. So if you have any weird erratic behavior like I was having, where I was just mowing and it just stalled out on me, I thought I was right out of gas. I had plenty of gas. I didn't even check the battery. I just jumped it off. It fired right up. I mowed for about 2 hours. Ran fine. No other issues other than that one time. And then one time after that, it did it again. And I had just started mowing. And I've chased my tail trying to figure out if it was a carb issue or fuel line or something, a vent. I mean, I was doing everything, checking everything. And then the other day, I was just checking the voltage because it was acting so weird how everything was running. And checked my voltage on the battery, and sure enough, my regulator was going out and it was causing over voltage on the battery. And that's why, that's probably why the engine was dying. But I'm surprised the fuses hadn't blown with that much voltage. But fuses blow for amperage, not voltage. So you can, run 50 volts or 100 volts through them fuses and it won't blow. But if you run past the amperage on the rating on them, it'll pop the fuses. So, like I said, the fuses are protection from amperage, like a short going to ground with so many amps going through it to pop the fuse. So when I get the new voltage regulator, we will come back to this, and hopefully we'll figure it out. Got a big storm moving through. A few flashes of lightning, thunder already. Better get this video wrapped up. So I'll see you on the repair.